Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Faster Mai, good evening, it's 5:30. This is Update for Tuesday 18th of June 2024 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes looking at the latest news on the island, and background to that news with sport and business and travel updates and the newsmakers in person. This evening, Liverpool Ferry Terminal in service later this month. Julie Edge would have closed the 8 primary schools. Gas prices should go down, says the regulator. 31 new homes on a derelict site in Andreas, and a warning to parents over incidents at Happy Valley.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster Mai, Dave Moore.
Faster Mai. A Douglas man accused of causing death by dangerous driving will stand trial next year. Jackson Joseph Paul of Palace Road appeared at Douglas Courthouse today. The 35-year-old reconfirmed his not guilty plea in front of the Court of General Jail Delivery. The former Education Minister Julie Edge says she would have supported a recommendation to close 8 Manx primary schools. It's after a review into the current funding system for education on the island said the move could save $3.6 million. The Department of Education, Sport and Culture says it does not support that proposal. The Isle of Man Liverpool Ferry Terminal is expected to welcome its first set of passengers later this month, but no specific date has been set. Berthing trials have been conducted for some time, and the steam packet's understood to be carrying out the final touches, including checking systems and installing software and hardware. Elsewhere, it's hoped a new blood test that could predict Parkinson's 7 years before symptoms could be rolled out by the NHS within the next 2 years. An initial study found artificial intelligence could analyse 8 blood markers to provide an accurate diagnosis. Justin Timberlake's been arrested on suspicion of drink driving in the Hamptons. The singer was stopped by police in an upmarket area of New York's Long Island. And a forensic accountant who was investigating the faulty Horizon software system used by the post office claims he felt as though he was dealing with a possible criminal conspiracy. Ian Henderson told the inquiry into the scandal that former boss Paula Venables was blocking his work. She's previously denied any cover-up took place. Those are the Update News headlines. The next bulletin is at 6.
Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's guidance on powers of attorney and more. Manx Radio weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goromaya, thank you, Dave, from the Ronaldsway Met Office. There is still that strong wind warning in the North Irish Sea. State of seas light or moderate and smooth or slight overnight. The weather dry with variable clouds, some late sunshine in a fresh northwest wind, continuing dry overnight, minimum 10 degrees Celsius. Port Crane, Wednesday, dry and bright in a light breeze. Daylight maximum 17, down to 11 through a dry night into Thursday. Dry with sunny periods, a light southwesterly and 18 degrees. And the summer solstice, Thursday evening at 9 minutes to 10. Sunsets tonight at 5 to 10. High tide 2 minutes past 10. Low water 26 minutes past 4 a.m. Sunrise at 4:45. And the morning high tide 18 minutes past 10.
Manx Glass and Glazing are proud to be an approved contractor with Construction Isle of Man. Call the team on 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
The Isle of Man Liverpool Ferry Terminal will welcome its first set of passengers later this month. The Infrastructure Minister Tim Crookall, MHK, confirmed he'd had no reason to believe otherwise.
We understand from the Isle of Man Steam Packing Company that, subject to satisfactory berthing and bunkering trials, they are working towards opening the terminal as soon as possible in order to be ready for the busy summer holiday period. They currently expect to have the first passengers sailing later this month.
Is the Isle of Man Ferry Terminal in Liverpool ready for public use? And if not, what is preventing this use and when will it be ready?
The Isle of Man Ferry Terminal has been completed to the design and specification agreed between the Department and the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company. What remains to be completed lies with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company, such as the installation of their software and hardware, checking the system, X-ray machine, cafe signage, etc., and for the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company to be satisfied with their berthing trials. There are also other minor areas within this terminal that the steam packet are working on in preparation of welcoming passengers to the new facility very shortly.
So can the Minister for Infrastructure confirm, to put this beyond any doubt, that there are no issues in the ferry terminal preventing the steam packet actually doing its bit to start using the ferry terminal?
The steam packet company is there to make this, down to them to make the decision. They have to be off the old link span by the end of this month unless they have to extend that for any reason, but as far as I know they won't have to, and we look forward to them being on the new link span by the end of this month.
Completely transparent then, to round everything together, does the Minister actually really believe that the steam packet will be the Isle of Man ferry terminal in Liverpool by the end of June 2024? And if so, can you put that on record today?
Minister to reply.
I have no reason to doubt, Mr. President, from the information I have from my officers and from the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company, they will be using that the new ferry terminal by the end of this month.
The former Education Minister says she would have supported a recommendation to close 8 primary schools on the Isle of Man. It's after the Department of Education, Sport and Culture rejected the findings of a review into the current funding system for education on the Isle of Man. Julie Edge, MHK, says she would have been prepared to make tough decisions when she was in charge.
I think any national politicians should consider what's best for the island overall. We should be considering the best opportunity for education, its facilities and funding for the island. And certainly that's tough decisions that need to be made, and some of those tough decisions could have been made. I would have made them if they were the right decisions, but there was much more discussion needed to take place with our schools, with our teachers. They're the professionals, they know what's required.
Would you have closed the schools that were identified had you still been Minister?
I would, and I think they're the right decisions as a national politician, that you need to be making the tough. The Chief Minister keeps saying, I'm going to be fiscally responsible, I'm going to make tough decisions. Well, let's see where we get with this now on many areas. You know, where are these tough decisions going to be? Would I be recommending that possibility for efficiencies is losing teachers? No, I would not. That would be totally wrong. What we should be looking at is across government where these skills and people's skill set can be best met, and don't lose any of our professionals in haste when there's lots of areas that there could be massive savings across government. Education doesn't feature in the Council of Ministers' updated island plan. Only in March this year, education didn't feature as the top 6 priority. And that is one of the big challenges. I was not impressed with that at all, that did not come out of this Council of Ministers, that education was not one of the top 6. We're going to attract people to the island if we've got an excellent education system and facilities.
This is the most listened to Isle of Man news source. And Manx Radio's Update is the Isle of Man's most downloaded news podcast.
The Isle of Man's energy regulators recommended a reduction in gas tariffs. Looking at that, Lewis Foster.
The Communications and Utilities Regulatory Authority issued a notice today based on a mid-year review saying tariffs should be brought down by 2.8%. Higher demand for gas than anticipated over the past 6 months means the cost of running the network is more than covered by the current tariff levels. This, it says, means there's a small risk of Isle of Man Energy over-recovering and making more profits than it's allowed. It's a different picture to that which was being painted in the House of Keys last month, when there were concerns of potential increases due to the number of people on payment plans doubling in 6 months. Cura, however, was quick to dismiss those concerns, saying it couldn't foresee any increase happening this year at all. So what are the next steps? Any changes following this mid-year review are due to be brought in next month. The recommendation, 2.8%, equates to around 0.3 pence per unit. Cura says the next review is due in November, with any update to tariffs after that to be implemented in January 2025. Manx Radio has contacted Islands Energy Group for comment.
A property developer says planning approval for 31 new homes in the north of the Isle of Man will bring a derelict site back into use. Kell Properties was recently granted planning permission for the project at the former Dale Nurseries site on Oatlands Road in Andreas. The story from Sean Cowper.
The development will include the construction of 31 new dwellings, associated roads, plots and open spaces, with 8 of those properties classed as affordable. The permission includes a number of conditions, including the required inclusion of appropriate surface water drainage as the site is at risk of flooding, and the need to comply with climate change laws. Kell Properties says it's delighted to have finally obtained obtained planning consent, having initially submitted the application in 2022, adding that it will provide much-needed housing in the north of the island. Construction is expected to get underway in September.
The only radio station that's Manx, and we're proud of it. Celebrating 60 years, this is Manx Radio.
The chair of Ramsey Commissioners says disappointment is an understatement following the rejection of the local authority's boundary extension bid. Rob Cowell says conclusions made in the report differ greatly from the opinions of the local authority.
We're very disappointed. That's probably an understatement. We're devastated, really. We put a lot of work into it, and we hoped that we were trying to build a future for Ramsey, but sadly the chairman has declined our vision. A lot of the sites within Ramsey are undevelopable at present. We need significant investment in the town's infrastructure, so in the flood defences, to make some of those sites developable. Again, that's a central government issue, which we've been told, isn't forthcoming. We do believe that Ramsey needs to expand. We do believe we need more building land in the future. If we can't expand the town, we can't get any bigger and better and provide better services. So we thought it was fundamental to be proactive and instead of chasing ourselves in the future. Nothing to do with rateable income. He does declare that Ramsey is a service centre for the north and that rate reform is needed as well, and that we echo, and we really do need rate reform from central government, because if it's been a service centre for the north, it's fair the north pay for Ramsey instead of Ramsey having to pay for itself and the north using it. A fundamental issue that's been running for decades, and as yet government have failed to deliver. It's a chicken and egg, isn't it? So without extra people, the infrastructure doesn't have to improve. You need to invest in developing the town, and then you develop in the services as you have a need. If there is a substantial need now, then obviously the investment needs to come. But being honest, a lot of it isn't local government investment, it is central government investment. I think it's a very good process to go through. I think it gives us a foundation for the future in terms of what is achievable and what isn't. Obviously the north area seems to be acceptable progress for moving forward, and that's obviously something we can focus on in the future.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 18 minutes before 6 in corporate news, Premier Inn owner Whitbread rallied as it said it was confident of its full-year outlook despite flat first-quarter sales. Hotel sales were boosted by a strong performance in Germany, where they rose 15%, offsetting zero growth in the UK. An Isle of Man company is celebrating a milestone after reaching 500 employees around the world. Altenar, which is an iGaming software provider, has its headquarters at Cycle 360 House in Douglas and has continued to expand recently and opened a new office in South America earlier this year with a hub in Uruguay. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. Apple is ending its in-house buy now, pay later scheme in America, which it launched just last year. The tech giant said it'll now offer customers payment plans through third-party credit and debit card lenders. Existing borrowers will be able to continue managing payments using Apple's Wallet app. The decision marks a retreat for Apple from plans to offer traditional finance services. Apple Pay Later users in the US could break up the cost of purchases worth up to $1,000, £790 that is, into 4 installments over 6 weeks without having to pay interest or fees. The scheme represented a move to providing financial services, with Apple effectively offering customers loans instead of resorting to banks and other traditional lenders. The company used a new subsidiary, Apple Financing, to issue the loans. It came at a time when US interest rates were close to zero, making both borrowing much more attractive, but as central banks put up rates to tackle rising prices, the plan became less appealing.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European stocks were higher. US stocks held near record highs, hitting the pause in muted early trading. Oil ticked up in early trade and gold edged higher as Treasury yields eased. The numbers from Ramsey Crookall at the close in London: the FTSE 100 up 0.6%, 8,191. The DAX in Frankfurt up 1/3%, 18,123. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial up 0.03%, 38,787. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index down 0.04%, and the S&P 500 up just over 1/10% in Chicago, 5,480. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling is currently trading at $1 26.9 cents, €1 18.3 cents, and 22 South African rand 94.3 cents. In commodities, gold's up 0.5% at $2,328 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude up 0.6% at $84.92.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
No, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
3:15.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
A close look at tax thresholds, the cost of sea travel to and from the Isle of Man, and an examination of public sector headcount with a view to efficiencies. Here in summary are the three things which were detailed in a statement to Tynwald by the Chief Minister Alfred Cannon MHK this afternoon.
Firstly, the Treasury Minister has committed to reviewing tax thresholds for next year's budget. We are committed to a low tax economy, but we are also committed to ensuring that public service delivery benefits society in such a way that our island remains united and that we do not leave people behind. Secondly, I am today tasking the Chief Executive Officer and his Chief Officer team to undertake an efficiency review into headcount and delivery across central government departments and to report back in November. To aid this focus on the size of the public sector in delivery, I am asking that Manx Care personnel figures are now reported separately alongside central government reporting, and indeed that headcount reporting is more detailed and more specific. The Chief Executive Officer will be asking each department and board to present a paper detailing how their department can achieve efficiencies and cost reductions, outlining their plans to deliver savings and the impacts of such. Thirdly, the matter of transport costs to and from the island remain a matter of public concern, especially for those who need to travel across at short notice. I can confirm today that the Council will work with the Steam Packet Board over the summer to examine options to bring greater transparency to pricing, acknowledging that our sea service needs to work harder in the greater interests of our nation.
Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I. Good evening. Manx equestrian star Yasmin Ingham has secured another international victory, taking top spot in the 4-star Le Moulin horse trials in Germany. The Grieber rider and horse Banzai de Loire finished top of the pile in the 4-star German Championship following 3 days of competition. Her strong performance saw her finish ahead of fellow GB competitor Tom McEwen in second, with German rider Michael Young rounding out the top 3 in third. This latest win for Ingham comes just a few days before Team GB is expected to announce its equestrian team for the Paris 2024 Olympics. Last month it was confirmed Ingham has been longlisted to potentially represent Great Britain at the Games. In athletics, one of the Isle of Man's track teams has set a new under-20s Manx record. Competing at the second round of the Northern Track and Field League in Lyon Saturday, the men's 4x400 metre relay team of Ben Sinclair, Sam Perry, Regan Corrin and Ryan Corrin set a new benchmark in the class of 3 minutes 31.4 seconds. It's 2.4 seconds quicker than the previous record set in 2008 by Conor Delabank, Mark Lean, Tom Richmond and Michael Hazlitt. Elsewhere at the weekend, young Ireland competitor Eve Martin broke the Isle of Man under-13 girls record for the 70-metre hurdles, subject to ratification. During the latest Youth Development League competition at Robin Park in Wigan, Martin completed the contest in a time of 12.0 seconds, narrowly beating the previous record set by Abby Foden-Williams of 12.1 seconds, which has stood since 2014. And in cycling, Manx Pro competitors Lizzie Holden and Becky Storey have both concluded their campaigns on the fourth and final stage of this year's Tour of Switzerland on the Women's World Tour this afternoon. For Storey and Team DSM Feminic, it was a positive end to the event as teammate Juliette Labousse was in the points, finishing 7th. This tour has been Storey's first competitive outing for nearly 2 months after previously suffering a broken collarbone in training in April. Elsewhere, Holden was UAE Team ADQ's highest finisher on the stage in 25th.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Got a late inbound at Ronaldsway. The 5:10 EasyJet from Liverpool won't be in until at least 6 o'clock tonight. Then it's the 7:30 EasyJet from London Gatwick, 5 to 8. Loganair from Liverpool, returning patient transfer plane. And the 10 to 9 o'clock Loganair from London City. They're both on time. Outbound, the 20 to 6 EasyJet to Liverpool won't be going until at least 6:30 tonight. Before that, the 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool, and then it's the 8 o'clock EasyJet return to London Gatwick. On the roads, temporary lights on Alexander Drive in Douglas, at the Devonshire Road, Albany Road junction for some gas main work, and nearby closures in phases at Devonshire Road and Devonshire Crescent. Some closures at Hillside Avenue and part of Switzerland Road in Douglas. Temporary lights on Vicarage Road in Farm Hill. At the Stevenson Way roundabout for water main replacement in Foxdale. Temporary lights on the main road between Mines Road and the Shoulder Road for drainage work. Temporary lights at the bottom of Johnny Watterson's Lane for that new Puffin crossing in Tremode. And lights on the main road in Baltrine near Liverpool Arms. They're working on the pavements near Peel. Phase closures on Ballabooey Road for water main work. And in Kirkmichael, some cable laying at Douglas Road corner with temporary lights. Temporary lights in Laxey on Ramsey Road at the Menorca Hill junction for 3 separate phases of drainage. Cable laying at Sulby Bridge with some lights there, and water main work in Colby at Ballakilferrick and Starvey on the Starvey Road. North of Ballasella, lights at the bottom of Ballamoda near Silverdale for resurfacing, and some temporary lights on the main road near the new housing estate in Ballasella for water main connection work.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
Quayside. There's a warning to parents and young people after reports of between 50 to 60 children causing issues at a post-exam gathering at Happy Valley near Port Jack in Onken. Inspector Charles Maloney from the Eastern Community Team says such incidents, which saw glass bottles thrown at emergency service personnel, are happening more often.
Unfortunately, it's on the rise. We understand children will be children, and obviously they are very excited about finishing their exams and finishing school, but this type of behaviour cannot be tolerated, and it won't be tolerated. The ambulance were called to somebody in distress. A drunken young person required their assistance. Following this, they've attended. They've obviously offered the assistance that they do. Then other young people in attendance have then decided to throw glass bottles at the paramedics in attendance. We are robust in our approach. Like, obviously, we don't want to criminalise children or young people, but ultimately we can't allow this sort of behaviour to happen. Can't allow anything that affects the local community, affects our partners or us to happen, and therefore robust action will be taken going forward. In these circumstances, what I can tell you is that an awful lot of parents have basically been spoken to. Some have had to attend police headquarters to be interviewed. The young people have. This sort of behaviour will not be tolerated under any circumstances. We are aware that there are further gatherings planned across the island. My message is quite clear to the parents. Do you know where your children are? Do you know what they're doing? Do you know who they're with? And ultimately, if your children choose to involve themselves in this sort of behaviour, you can expect a knock on the door from the police. Douglas schools, I can comment upon them because this is my area. Like, certainly Ballacameen and St Ninians have been fantastic. Like, basically worked very closely with the schools, and I know that they've sent a letter home to all the parents, basically advising them of such behaviour and the potential consequences. The message to the young people is, if you are thinking of going there to obviously have a bit of a laugh and a bit of a giggle, just be careful. You don't want to walk away with a criminal record.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
Faster by, the objective assessment of housing need reports focuses on action rather than discussion. According to the Douglas Central MHK, Chris Thomas, who was chair of the Housing and Communities Board when work began on it.
That OAN, Objective Assessment of Housing Need report, I started it. I worked with officers to approve the terms of reference. I never got a chance to meet the consultants because just as I was being constructively dismissed, that was when the consultants were coming on board. And there are some gaps in the report. So, for instance, mid-rent doesn't seem to be understood by the consultants. They don't seem to have the knowledge of the fact that we've got half our people on fixed-term tenancy and half of them not on fixed-term tenancy. They make the assumption that vacant properties, empty properties, are basically holiday homes like they would be in Cornwall without any evidence. And it seems to me there are probably other reasons why we have vacant properties on the Isle of Man that I needed to get inside. And then they make an assumption about older people and disabled people and pending occupation in commissioners' houses based on UK data, which I think there probably could have been data if we'd gone about it. But at the end of the day, this report only cost £40,000. They've got it out. It's similar to the ones we've had previously, but they've been in various places. And I do welcome government now responding by October, and I've set myself the challenge of responding properly to that.
Faster by, good evening. It's 6 minutes now before 6, live from Douglas in the Isle of Man on Manx Radio. This is Update. And refurbishing the tennis courts at Onken Park, a request for a framed picture of Harvey Briggs at the library. Just some of the things discussed at last night's Onken Commissioners meeting. Our local democracy reporter Emma Draper was at the meeting.
Purchasing new Christmas decorations was one of the key topics of conversations at last night's meeting. The clerk confirmed that there are due to be new streetlights installed on Governor's Road, which will be able to support the improved decorative street lighting. He also said a budget of £10,000 has been allocated, but shipping would take between £300 to £500 of it. 3 lighting options were presented to the board: a pair of baubles, colour-changing stars and yellow shooting stars. The board agreed to buy the baubles and the yellow shooting stars because they are from the same company and believed they could save on some shipping costs. It was also agreed to let the staff choose how many of each light to buy. Another big topic the board discussed was a proposal by the Isle of Man Lawn Tennis Association to refurbish and install a canopy over the tennis courts in Onken Park. At meetings in November last year and March this year, the board requested answers to a number of questions including the cost, planning permission and how the courts would be administered. The cost of the project would be in the region of £700,000 and the IOM LTA said this would be split in half. The local authority would pay £350,000 and the organisation would pay the other half. Concerns were raised about how the courts would be run. Currently, day passes can be purchased, which includes the use of the tennis courts, but under the new proposals it would be the IOM LTA which takes the bookings. Some of the board were worried that if the tennis courts are removed from the day pass, then other amenities may ask to be removed. A proposal was made to invite the organisation to a meeting. The vote was split, and Chair Zara Lone had the casting vote in favour of the meeting. An email was sent to the commissioners asking for a photograph taken of Harvey Briggs and former MHK Anne Crane with a pig at Cregnish be framed and displayed in the library. The library is named after Mr Briggs, who was a commissioner and former captain of the parish of Onchan. This was unanimously agreed by the board. Onchan commissioners will next meet on Monday the 1st of July.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Dave Moore, producer Amy Griffiths. After the news at 6 Countryside, Kerry Kermode and Simon Clark. Simon's on with Greatest Hits at 6:30, and I'm back tomorrow at 5:30.
WINT